Welcome back to another episode of STEM in Stilettos. This is your host, Zofia Morales, and today I'm here with Jessica Faulds. And we are going to talk about speak up, show up, advocating for your body when no one else will. And I will say that this topic is particularly personal to me. We have kind of parallel but different stories, Jessica and I. But I had chronic Lyme for a great many years, and it was very important for me to advocate for myself in order to even arrive at that diagnosis. So I find Jess to be a soul sister of sorts here, and I wanted to share her with you because I know, in addition to being the amazing women that we are and doing the things that we do, that many of us are hauling around these unseen burdens that maybe have a name, maybe don't have a name. And life gets much better when you can drop some of that stuff, or at least know what it is so you can deal with it in a way that supports the rest of your life. So on that note, I am going to introduce Jessica Faulds. She was diagnosed with MS at just 15 and began her journey of self-advocacy earlier than most teenagers ever choose to get their own haircut. By 27, she was in a medically induced menopause after a stem cell transplant, and at 30, she was diagnosed with ADHD, finally explaining why her brain had always felt like a browser with 47 tabs open, all playing music. Jessica doesn't have a typical wellness story. She has a resilient story stitched together with nutrition, movement, color, and a little bit of chaos. Today, Jessica works as a holistic nutrition coach, helping women fuel their brains and their bodies through plant-based living that is realistic, satisfying, and flexible. She teaches women to advocate for themselves in health settings that too often ignore them. As a certified spin instructor and personal trainer, she also champions movement for joy, strength, and the occasion endorphin-fueled dance party on the bike. Beyond coaching and fitness, Jessica designs colorful skirts with giant pockets and knits cozy creations with rescued yarn and transforms her hobbies into handmade products that spark joy. She built jessicafalds.com as a space to share her tools, her story, her shop, and her voice. Whether visitors arrive for meal plans, movement, or the messy truth about health and healing, Jessica promises to keep it real, honest, and just a little bit weird. And this is why you're my people, Jessica.
That was a lot. I can't remember ever that I wrote that much.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. When I put it in the third person, I was working with ChatGPT and it's like, do you want to shorten this? I'm like, no, I don't.
But it is a lot. I often have people ask me, like, they're like, where does your energy come from? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, because by rights, you should be exhausted and curled up in the bed, right?
Yeah, I just actually I finished block week because I'm also, I know you said all that, doing an MBA right now.
Go you.
And so I just did a block week and I did my entire block week while teaching fitness classes pretty much every morning and 2 nights and group projects. And people are just like, I don't think we've ever seen you not energetic. And I said, you should be scared. You should be very scared if I'm not. Like, if you ever,
well,
ever
yeah,
see
and
a day.
just imagine how energetic you would be if it were not for the drag of MS on your
Right?
system, you know?
Right?
So you were diagnosed at 15. How did that early experience shape your understanding of your body, what it means to be healthy, and just basically your world as a teenager?
Yeah, it was a lot. I feel like I can go back to the diagnosis day like that. I woke up one morning and my left eye had stopped moving.
Oh
Um,
my.
and I managed to hide it from my parents for a day. And
That's pretty impressive,
yeah,
actually.
it was pretty impressive. My parents, well, my dad, he was away that day. My dad is an Ironman, so he was out training and he was at some kind of sporting event that day. And so I kind of just hung around the house and didn't draw attention to it. My mom noticed it at dinner time. And we went to my mom, I was out to dinner with my grandparents, my sister, and my mom while my dad was away. And my mom ended up looking across the table going, nope, we're going to the hospital. And my grandparents took my sister home. And we went to the hospital, and I was basically told the doctor there kind of dismissed it and told me that I had a lazy eye and that
Oh,
it,
yeah, that's what it is.
yeah, he said, you were playing video games last night. And it just happened to be the night after I got my first ever video game. And I had spent like a couple hours. It wasn't even like I was like 24 hours, but it was a couple hours. He said, oh, your eye's probably just tired. If it hasn't gone back to normal by Monday, go see an eye doctor. And I was like, okay,
Okay.
this
Right.
doesn't feel very normal, doesn't feel like a lazy eye. And obviously, we're here. So, like, Monday came and went, and it hadn't gotten better.
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, so we ended up going to an eye doctor who then said that he thought I had a brain tumor
Oh,
or I was
wow.
diabetic.
Went from lazy eye to
0 to
brain
60, like
tumor.
0 to 60, right?
Yes.
And he dragged my mom out into the waiting room, and in front of everyone out in the waiting room handed her a phone book because it was the early 2000s and no one had cell phones.
Oh my goodness.
And said, look up your doctor's number. I think your daughter has a brain tumor.
Yeah, so much
And
for private patient
yeah,
confidentiality.
yeah, it was like patient confidentiality. And so then we ended up getting transferred to Sick Kids Hospital. And that's when they told us that they were like 90% sure I had an MRI scan, and based on the MRI and where my lesions were, they were 90% sure that I had MS. Now, MS is multiple by definition. So you
Right.
have to show progression or have something go wrong. But they said based on where everything is, it's like 95% sure that you have MS. And
Wow.
my parents, I remember sitting there with my parents because I was 15. So my parents were at all my doctor's appointments.
Well,
And
let's just pause for a second,
yeah,
okay? Because you've just dropped this bomb on us that it's MS, and you've had now decades
almost. I've been
understanding what
19.
MS is.
Yeah.
And so, for our listeners, what is multiple sclerosis?
So multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune condition where I always joke that the only thing strong enough to kill me is myself. And it's because
Mm,
my immune system is actively attacking my nervous system, thinking that it is a foreign invader and dropping little holes. And so basically what I'll tell people is if you picture like a nerve, so a nerve is like the cord on your light. So the
yeah.
cord that you plug in for your light, and there's a protective coating on that so that when you touch the cords, you don't get zapped and the signal travels really well. And my body thinks that that cord around my nerves is foreign. And so it cuts little holes and it eats little holes and causes what we call lesions.
Mhm.
And the lesions can be pretty much anywhere in my nervous system. And it gives different symptoms. So the one symptom was my first symptom, my left eye stopped moving. I've lost feeling from about my back down about 4 times now. I've had my vision go gray. I've had my entire body go numb, like a lot of sensory issues. So basically, anything that your nervous system controls is under attack and fair game,
Yeah, it can
unfortunately.
go on the fritz at any moment.
Any
Um,
moment.
Now, a lot of times when they talk about things like MS, they talk about this ongoing disease deterioration kind of schema.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience?
So what I will say, when I was diagnosed with MS, what I was told is, and this is a very outdated way of looking at MS now, but when I was diagnosed back in 2007, I was told that initially you were diagnosed with one of two types of MS. So there's relapsing remitting and primary progressive. And so relapsing remitting is what I was diagnosed with. And that's when it's kind of like a wave. So you'll have a period where you're having a relapse and everything's kind of not working. And then you'll probably go down to baseline. And then a little later, you'll have a wave, you'll have something go wrong. And then there was primary progressive. And primary progressive was you never go back to baseline.
Mm,
So you were going to steadily progress and keep getting worse. Now, at the time that I was diagnosed, I was told that there was a 50% chance that I would progress into what they call secondary progressive. So that's when you start as relapsing remitting. So you're having that little
yeah.
wave, and then you go into a progressive form where you return to baseline. I was told that approximately 50% of people who are diagnosed with relapsing remitting progress to a more progressive form within the first decade. And
Wow.
so if I was
That's
looking
pretty
at that,
grim.
yeah, that means that I could be looking at pretty serious chronic disability before I was 30.
Wow. Yeah,
um,
that's a load right there.
yeah, it was a huge load. Now, luckily, I have not progressed with everything that my family has said. I'm always just on that cusp where I'm going to try the newest treatment or the next best thing that's out there. And that has been enough to get me to the next treatment and to the
Hmm.
next opportunity. So I have failed off of 4 disease-modifying therapies in the last 19 years, 18 years. So I started with an injectable, and then I went
Hmm.
to an infusion, and then an oral, and then an infusion. I've been on 2 of what they call are the big 3 disease modifying therapies. And then I eventually made my way to a stem cell transplant 6 years ago. And so luckily, I am in my 19th year since my diagnosis. I am still teaching fitness classes up to 10 times a week, literally climbing mountains because I do live in Calgary, Alberta. So I will go hiking up crazy mountains. And so my symptoms have not progressed to that extreme debilitation that was a possibility when I was diagnosed.
Yeah, I want to kind of rewind a little bit because you've said luckily
Yeah.
several times in the course of this conversation. And I want to dig into that a little bit more because while there are medical odds at play, you can also shift medical odds in your favor through how you interact with the medical system. So tell us a little bit about how you interacted with your doctors as you moved through this process.
Yeah, so I have to give a shout out to my parents for that one because from the day, like I was diagnosed at 15, and so they very easily could have said, "Hey, we're going to do all the research and you're going to do this treatment and we're going to
That's
make the
that. Yeah.
decisions." Yeah, we're going to make the decisions for you. But my parents pretty much sat me down and they said, "We want you to read all the research." And I love science, so I was like, "Yeah, let's do this." We
Well,
were like,
and
"We
thank
want."
heavens, right? How many
Yeah.
15-year-olds are like, yeah, bring on the scientific journals.
Bring on the science. So I did all the research and I ended up going into school. So through it all, I went into school. I have a degree in health science. I have a degree in nutrition and dietetic sciences. I have a holistic nutrition certification. So I literally went to school, and as part of my training in school was learning how to read scientific journals and evaluate them critically. So my parents from day one said, here is all the research that the doctors have given us. It had the side effects, the options, everything. They go, we want you to pick what you want to do. They're like, it's your body. You get to pick what you want to do. So what do you want to do? And so from day one, I was like, okay, it's on me. And I have to do the research and I have to make the decisions. And then I was the one bringing it forward to my doctor when things were going wrong and I wasn't happy. And so it is been a lot of research and coming prepared to my doctor's offices. And I always say I'm probably their biggest pain in the ass
Oh,
because I
God,
do
me
the
too.
research.
Me too.
But
And I will sit and argue with them about the
yeah.
research.
Oh, I argue with them constantly. I still remember I had a doctor and I went in and I wanted to change medications at one point. And I went in and I just said to him, I said, by the time I leave this office, we are going to sign the paperwork and I'm going to be on Lemtrada. And he goes, well, I don't have any patients on Lemtrada because it was brand new. Like it
Yeah.
just came out in Canada. And I said, that's okay. I said, we can have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about it, buddy. I said, here's all my research. I have read these 20 different scientific journals, everything I can find on this drug, everything. I said, I've read journals about my current medication. I've read journals about the new options. By the time I leave this office, I want to be on Lemtrada. And I said, and I'm willing to talk to you about it. And if you can give me very credible reasons about why you think I shouldn't be doing this, then I'm here to listen and I'm willing to have that conversation. But this is what I want to do with my body. And I did end up leaving the office with the paperwork started for Lemtrada. And he was very good about it. He was very, very good about it. But that's been my life. As I've shown up, I've done the research. I said, this is what I want. I'm here to have an open dialogue and an open conversation. And if you can tell me a reason why what I want is not a good idea, I will respect that and I will take that into consideration.
Yeah.
But this is what I want to do.
And I love that approach because so many of us have been trained to walk into the doctor's office and go, okay, just tell me what I need to do to get better, which works fine, I think, in the general course of things, right? You know, the usual stuff that happens, colds and that kind of stuff. But you start dealing with conditions and diseases that you're having trouble getting a diagnosis for. And I find in my own experience, and I think you probably found in yours, that when I decide that I'm heading up this health effort and I have a bunch of professionals on my team, I've got the doctors, I've got the nutritionists, I've got alternative health providers, massage and acupuncture and all the things. But when I take the final responsibility for understanding the results that come back, understanding how my body is responding to what's going on, I get a much better result and we go more productive places than if I just let everybody be in their silo and go, well, this will be the best thing for you.
Oh, 100%. And when I think about like the team that I have my neurologist, I have my hematologist, I have my hormone specialist, I have my fertility doctor because I did have to preserve my fertility. I have my acupuncturist, I have my physiotherapist, I have a chiropractor, I have an osteopath. So I've got like a team of like 12 different people. I got a family doctor, and I like to be in the know as well because I can't guarantee that they are all going to be up on every single thing that every other doctor is doing.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And you bring something new into the equation, like a brand new drug, for example. They might not have seen any patients on this before and
no.
in their particular specialty. And so, yeah, it's important that you have as good an understanding in many ways that they have.
Yeah, I said I almost argue that I need to have more because I have done all the research. I could name all the research on MS and all the research on ovarian failure and my menopause and ADHD, but I know it in my body and what it's presenting in my body. So you can tell me what the research is on MS. It doesn't mean that that's how it is acting in my body and what those
Exactly.
symptoms are looking like for me.
I love that you hit that because I think that's the missing piece for many patients when they're sitting in the room with the doctor is they think that the experts are the ones sitting around them. But
Yeah.
the other expert in the room is you. You are the expert on what's going on in your body, how drugs are landing, how things are responding to the different treatments and therapies that you're going through. And I think it's super important to own that expertise.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'm going to just put a pin in this and say we're going to talk about menopause at 27 because that's a trip in and of itself when we come back from the break. And while we're at the break, I would encourage you to think about your health and think about your energy levels and what's going on with your body because a lot of times we're encouraged as women to sort of not pay attention or our concerns are oftentimes kind of poo-pooed in the doctor's office. And I would suggest that if you're being poo-pooed in the doctor's office, first find a new doctor. But also think about the things that really are a drag right now on your health and your energy. And let's spend a little time around what those are, and we'll start scraping some ideas together as we go through the break here. And hang with us, we'll be right back.
Oh, check the loud, the wolf here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales, and I'm back with Jess Faulds, and we are going to swing into discussing how menopause arrived at age 27. So tell us, Jess, what was going on there?
Yeah, so when I was 26, when I moved out to Calgary, I got a very progressive, very young, with it neurologist. I will say, I can't say anything bad about my current neurologist. He has been with me for the long haul for the last 7 years. And he was wanting me to do a stem cell transplant. He came forward and he said, I want you to do a stem cell transplant for your MS. That one drug that I had been on, Lemtrada, had been shown to halt MS in I think it was 80% of people, if I remember the original studies.
That's a nice number.
But it didn't work for me, unfortunately. So my MRIs, when I moved to Calgary and had an MRI, it showed that it was still progressing. My MS was still progressing. And he said, I'm not comfortable with the progression that I'm seeing after Lemtrada. So we're doing a study here on stem cell transplants. And I'd really like you to do a stem cell transplant. And I said, screw you.
I did not down with this.
I did everything else that you wanted me to do. I've done everything for the last 13 years. I've done everything you've told me to. This was not part of the deal. And I went and sat with my feelings. But long story short, I ended up deciding to do the stem cell transplant. Now, a big part of the stem cell transplant, unfortunately, is I did 11 rounds of chemotherapy in 8 days.
Yeah, because they have to blow up your existing stem cells.
They blow up everything. And so the one day I actually did 3 rounds of chemotherapy in one day. So it's 3 different chemotherapies in a single day. No one was allowed to use the bathroom I was using because I had so much chemo that my pee was toxic. So there were all these rules, but they told me from the get-go that based on the chemotherapy that I was doing, there's a 95% chance that you are going to go into ovarian failure. They don't call it
Oh,
menopause. They call it ovarian failure when you're 27, which I think is worse because language matters. And I didn't fail. My body didn't fail. This was the result of a pretty aggressive treatment that did work. It did work, and it did work for me. But what happened was after my stem cell transplant, I basically immediately started having menopause symptoms.
hot
So I started having
flashes.
hot flashes. I had heartburn for the first time in my entire life. I had
Oh,
no idea because I was 26, 27 years old.
am I
27-year-olds
having
don't
a
get
heart attack?
heartburn.
What's happening here?
I was Googling. I was like, why does it feel so terrible? And I was like, and so I started having all these symptoms that I said, apparently when you go into menopause, heartburn becomes more frequent. I was having the hot flashes. I wasn't sleeping. I was waking up in night sweat. So within the first, it was like 4 weeks. This is 4 weeks after the chemo. I went to my hematologist, who is, I'll just say, a 60-year-old gentleman, 65-year-old. He's in his 60s, probably, gentleman.
Okay. So he has a certain mindset.
He's a certain mindset. And I just said, I said, I think I'm having like the menopause. Like I said, you guys are right. I'm having menopausal symptoms. This is terrible. I can't sleep. I'm having heartburn. I'm having hot flashes. And I always joke, he looked me in my eyes and said, we'd like to give it a year to see if it like what happens. And I was like, nope, that sounds terrible.
What
I'm
are
not
you
doing a year?
Yeah.
I said, you come and do this for a year, buddy. And so I said, no, I would have really appreciated. I said, I need you to refer me to a hormone specialist. I said, I need you to refer me to the hormone specialist. And I need to refer me to the hormone specialist now. And I'm really glad that I did that because they did immediately put me on hormones. They're able to say, no, you're having all these symptoms. And to this day, I do take hormones every single day. I take the hormones, and I can tell if I have an ADHD moment and I forget to take the hormones because those hot flashes come
They
right
come
back.
right back. I had one of those the other night. I must have missed the estrogen today. Darn it.
I was like, I remember once I had a hot flash so bad that I used to work with a woman who was legally blind. She was legally blind. Her name was Bev, and she was working across like the table from me. And she just goes, Jess, are you having a hot flash? And I was like, Bev, you can't even see me. How do you know? And she's like, I can feel it radiating off you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, there's no question about it that I went into menopause at 27. And so I immediately got referred to a hormone specialist. I still work with that hormone specialist to make sure that I'm taking the hormones that I need. There was a study done in the 90s that I think did a great disservice to women's health. And it was talking about how when you take hormones after menopause, it has all these negative effects. But that study has since been completely disproven. And studies show like the sooner you start the hormones, the better it actually is for you.
Yeah, they were hesitant to do hormone supplementation with me because of some of like my family history, that kind of stuff. And it took me 3 years, I think, to convince one that it would be okay. You need to just do this. Yeah.
And it's just, I find a lot of doctors don't necessarily stay up to date on all of this research. So there is new research coming out all the time. So I take hormones every single day. I can still get pregnant. Before my stem cell transplant, I did successfully harvest. I've got 18 eggs in a freezer somewhere in Calgary, and I still physically can carry a child. I will be getting pregnant through IVF when we do go it, but I have a doctor who specializes in pregnancy post-chemo, in hormones post-chemo, and all of these things that we have to do. Because I haven't even, at the time of doing my stem cell transplant, I hadn't even reached peak bone density yet. Because I was 27 years old.
Yeah, exactly. And now suddenly you're going to go into menopause and have the erosion. No, 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 no.
Yeah. And so I needed the estrogen to go through to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. To protect your bones because you don't have, 25, 30 more years to live. You've got an entire life still to live.
Yeah. I'm 33. I'm only 33.
You're 33 now.
I had to think about that.
Yeah, you got another 50 years or more.
Oh, my goal is to hit 110.
There you go.
That's my goal.
You've got 80 years to go.
I got like 80 years to go.
Yeah, you need all the bone density you can start with.
Yeah.
So, as a teenager, how did you find it was trying to advocate for yourself in the medical system that young? I mean, doctors a lot of times don't take women seriously to start with, let alone a young woman.
So I will say when I was at Sick Kids Hospital, it was exceptionally easy to advocate for myself. Sick Kids Hospital, my doctor was a female neurologist. And I think it takes a pretty special person to become a pediatric anything.
I agree.
And you have people who are intent on listening to peds patients. They're intent on listening to kids. And they learn how to give kids of all ages a voice. where I first struggled was when I transitioned to adult care. So
Mm,
at 18, they're just like, you are now a grown up, and you get
that's
shipped
right.
from sick kids to an adult hospital. And that's where I got a male neurologist who definitely did not listen to me like I was used to being listened to. That is where I got MRI teams. I've been a claustrophobic person, and I still remember my first adult
Oh,
MRI.
oh
Um,
my.
at Sick Kids Hospital, you got a movie and headphones and like goggles and blankets, and they had this whole thing so that like the
Yeah,
MRI wasn't scary. And I will say that 15 years ago, my MRI was an hour and a half long. It wasn't like I was in there for 5 minutes. They were an
yeah,
hour and a half to 2 hours long.
yeah. Well, and I've
And
had my fair share of those, and I'm not a huge fan of enclosed spaces, but I'm not claustrophobic, and I've got to say, yeah, it's not a fun experience.
no, and so I had told them that I was claustrophobic and nobody listened to me. And then I went through the MRI and ended up having a panic attack in the machine. And I had a nurse yelling at me that it was all my fault and it wasn't that bad. And I was 18. Like just because
Yeah,
I had hit an 18th birthday, I was decided I was an adult. And then I had a doctor who I was on a medication, and basically if you are there's an antibody in your system, and if you are positive for this antibody, it puts you at a higher risk for a brain infection on this
sure.
medication. And he had decided that it was worth the risk and I should stay on the medication. And it took him like I don't even remember him telling me that I was antibody
It's
positive the first
that
time I went to visit
that's
him.
easy to decide when it's not your brain.
When it's not your
I'm
brain.
just
And
saying.
I went back to him and I said, I'm not comfortable with this risk. And he's like, no, 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 it's fine. I think the risk is worth it. You're doing well in this drug. So I ended up going to my family doctor and I said, I need you to refer me to someone else. And so he referred me to a different hospital in Toronto, which was fantastic. And I got a neurologist who I really liked. I had a good experience with. He's the one who I said, when I leave this room, I'm going to be on Lemtrada. It's a good time.
Yeah, that
Um,
one.
so he was willing to work with me and he wasn't as dismissive. But I still remember after I had that other neurologist while I waited for the transfer, and I would ask him questions. He's like, well, you can wait for your new neurologist now, because he knew I was like, there was just a
Oh
level
God, he
of
was snarky. That's
there
terrible.
was snarky afterwards. And so I learned um very quickly to have a thick skin and really to start pushing back, because what I realized that what that experience taught me was that there I do think he had a bit of an ego, but I
Mhm.
think that there is in the medical world, there's I'm the doctor and I know better. And I
Yes,
said, I fully agree. You went to school forever and you have a lot more science knowledge and you do this, but my voice still needs to be heard and my opinions need to be heard and my opinions are valid.
yeah.
Um, and so it was trying to find that balance. And I've been very lucky that I now a hematologist that I love. I have a hormone specialist that I love. They were actually trying to call me when we started this, so I'm going to call them afterwards because I do
Well,
have an appointment coming
and
up.
we're
But
back to that luck, and I want to kind of revisit that word luck because I don't know that it's so much luck as persistence.
I will say my neurologist in Calgary, um, I give it a bit of luck because I got the first one that I got when I got here, and we just to Dr. Lou. Dr. Lou is amazing. Um, he is of a younger generation, I would say, from my previous neurologist. So, but he is that one I would say is luck, and my hormone specialist I would say is luck because they were the first ones that I got. The other ones, yeah, probably me peeing in their ass and asking for new doctors.
Exactly, exactly right. I know I've had doctors that I've had to just walk
Fire,
away. Yeah, you
fire
gotta
them.
fire them sometimes
Yeah,
if they are unwilling to listen to your experience or are dismissive of your concerns. I don't find that to be constructive. I want somebody who's willing to discuss the science with me and not just go, well, this is how we do it.
yeah,
Because I've found in my own medical journey, I don't tend to be in that like 80% of people just I'm in that other 20% like most time. And I
oh,
get the weird
100%.
side effects and I get the strange drug interactions and see a doctor that's going to listen to me
Yeah,
and that's willing to pivot and do experiments of one. I mean, that's the way I kind of put it. It's like, I'm going to do an experiment of one. Here's
yeah,
why. Here's where I'm headed. I'd like to start with the knowledge of, where I am in my blood panels and all of this kind of stuff before I go down this road, and then let's measure it and see.
Yeah.
And I find if I have a doctor willing to play that game with me, we get along like house on fire and we get places.
Yeah.
And the ones that don't want to team up on my medical care, we're probably not going to be a good fit.
Yeah. So I do think for me, it's been a mix of luck, also knowing when to push back, because I have gotten lucky. I did move to the one of two cities in Calgary where they're even doing the stem cell transplants, and I had no idea that that was even a thing. So they said sometimes I think I'm where I'm supposed to be for a reason, and I meet the people who I'm supposed to meet in, but also a willingness to be like, this is not right for me, and I need a different person.
Yeah. So what are your tips for women who've been told, oh, well, just come back later or lose weight or it'll change eventually? What are your top tips for someone who's in that space?
Number one, do the research and not just Dr. Google. Like if you can find a scientific journal, we have so many systems now, even just ChatGPT, that can help you. You can put the journal in and say, can you help me make sense of this if you're not confident or like having
Right.
its background?
And I'd recommend Perplexity probably over ChatGPT for that. But yeah.
Yeah. But we have like tools that people can use to help them understand if they don't fully understand science, like the
Exactly.
science
Take
journals.
this article and put it into language as an 8-year-old can understand.
Yeah, same. Like if you can explain it to a toddler. Number two, I would say don't be afraid to rock the boat. I think a lot of people, even like I'm Canadian, we are known for
You're
being
nice.
polite.
From
Nice and
Minnesota,
polite
we're
people.
not confrontational. Yeah, exactly.
Not rude to ask to push back.
Or to
And
ask
then,
for explanations, right?
yeah,
Because a lot of
ask for
times
explanation.
they'll dump all this stuff out in front of you and act that you understand the ramifications. And no, it's not obvious to me.
No, so
Yeah.
don't be afraid to, it's not rude. It's not rude. Hi, baby. And then the final one, as I always say, is it's okay to walk away from that. It is, you are right. I say it always starts with a family doctor. So find a family doctor that you're really comfortable with. I have found, like, I have a family doctor here that I love. And then I go back to my family doctor. Once I have that core relationship with my family doctor, then if I'm having an issue with, say, I was that neurologist
A specialist, yeah.
a specialist, I can go to her and say, I need you to refer me to someone else, and I'm willing to wait. And just, but it is your right to find someone else. Because they give you Dr. X doesn't mean you are stuck with Dr. X.
Yeah, exactly. And we run into that in the States here with like HMOs. It's like, yeah, we have assigned your family doctor. Yeah, no, you can change that. So
Yeah.
so use the power that you have to
Yeah.
make that happen. Yeah, I love that. So up on our second break already. And what would you suggest for work over this break? What do you think they should think about?
The homework that I would consider giving people, and I always tell people is a great place to start, is to start a journal of some kind. Because I started doing this when I got diagnosed with MS, where I would just have like an end of check-in and be like, this is what I ate, this is how I felt, these were symptoms that I noticed, or like these were the things. Because then I was able to start finding the patterns. So when it goes back to going, like, do the research and be prepared for your appointments, the easy way to do that is if you have a book on you.
Yeah,
So I
a
always
little book
encourage
you can
a
carry with
little
you.
book on you, and you can, like, I would comment and be like, okay, for like, so my partner says he can tell that I'm over 30 now, is because the other day I had heartburn and I was like, oh, I'm having heartburn. And he goes, I bet it's that vegan pizza that we got last night. He's like, you're over 30 now, you're gonna get heartburn from pizza. But I said, this is interesting. And I write down, I'm like, oh, I had something new, or I had something different today. And then I can put like, okay, well, the next day I had heartburn. And so
Yeah.
if I start seeing, like, if I go and I do that again, be like, yeah, I had this really good pizza that I really loved. And then the next day I have heartburn, I go, okay, I'm starting to see this
Yeah.
pattern.
I'm gonna +1 that advice. So
Yeah.
as your kind of mini steps, something doable over the break would be to just get a notebook you can use.
Oh, checked it loud, but we're here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I am back with the amazing, wonderful Jess Faulds. And your assignment over the break was to find you a notebook that you can cart around with you to keep track of the thing that is bothering you, or things, depending on what they are. Because a lot of times there will be interactions or unexpected things that will come out of this that you can only find by keeping track of what's happening and when. So let's talk a little bit about your work in nutrition and fitness and wellness, and how you help people take back control and really become another expert in the room when you're sitting with your physician.
Yeah. Like I said, I went through a lot of school. I did my degree in health, and then I did a degree in nutrition, and then I did a holistic nutrition degree. And I got certified as a personal trainer, and then I got certified as a cycle instructor. I've been looking into, I was like, maybe I'll do Pilates next. But all of those degrees and studies and certifications was really me finding what worked for my body. And it was very interesting. So I started my first degree in nutrition is from a university in Ontario. And what I found when I was there was it very much heavily promoted the Canadian Food Guide at the time. And at the time, I was not finding...
Yeah, that would be very similar to what goes on in the US in many corners of nutrition. It's like, here's the food pyramid, and it's
here's the food pyramid. And you had to this is what I ate, and this is how it compares to the food pyramid. And I had to spend so much time explaining why what I was eating didn't match the food pyramid. I do not consume dairy. I don't consume meat. And I felt like I was just justifying my diet so hard. So I went through it. I have all the science behind the nutritional studies, but I don't follow the Canadian Food Guide. So then I went the opposite direction. I did holistic nutrition. And I will say that I did, again, a holistic program with a school in Canada. And there was a lot of great things that I took away from it. There was also some things I didn't agree with. So I found this weird mix of science and holistic studies that really works for me. And what I do is I help other people find their happy medium, because I will say I am a proud vegan. So I live a plant-based, I prefer plant-based because sometimes, like, if I'm out and there's absolutely nothing vegan, I will eat something vegetarian. But I am a proud plant-based vegan individual in all aspects of my life that I possibly can. So, but what I do for women, and what I do mostly for women, but I'll do for men as well, is I like to do an assessment of, like, what is going on in your systems? Where are we seeing it? What are you struggling with? What are you currently eating? And I always tell people, I'm like, I don't care what you eat. If you bite it, write it. Like, there is zero judgment. I used to work at a nutrition clinic, and I once had a client come in, and he was very honest that he drank a cup of vodka a day. And I said, okay, I'm not judging you, and I respect the honesty. And I was like, we need to go into the, like, why are you feeling it? Like,
why do you feel the need for this?
Why do you feel the need for this? And how can we start making some healthier changes? But he was very honest about everything that he was doing. And so I always tell people, I said, I'm not here to judge you. Can guarantee you that I've seen it before. And I start looking at them like, what are you eating? What are you doing? What are your movements? And then we go, okay, here are some changes that we can make. And it varies from what people need. Some people are like, Jess, I want you to give me a fully made meal plan. I want a meal plan that is a grocery list, and it tells me, here's the recipe, and this is what you're eating, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks.
Yeah.
It's all thought out for me, and I don't want to do any thinking.
And I want to think about it. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to think about it. I also do in the assessments where I'll give people, hey, here's 2-week sample meal plans and lists of food that are good for you, and, like, take with this what you need, and let's start building what kind of works for you. And so that is what I love to do the most, is just, I'm like, here, let's have it start out. And when I do say the one where it's like, here's the list, here's 2 weeks of sample meal plans, and then I say, we're going to check back in 6 weeks. So you've got 2 weeks of meal plans. You can follow, like, if people want to follow my Substack and follow my Instagram, I share recipes every week anyway. So I said, you can follow me and add in all these free recipes that I'm doing and build off of it.
You can find all of that in the show notes down there. So,
yeah. And then I say, let's check back in 6 weeks. And then we'll do a kind of another mini assessment. What are your symptoms? How are you feeling? I remember once I worked with this woman and everybody had told her that she should be drinking milk as a protein. And she was having milk every single day, but then her arthritis had flared up so bad and she was in
Oh, yeah.
so much pain. And I was like, we need to remove the milk. First things first, we'll find you a different protein source. Here's like 10 other ones. We need to remove the milk. And then she came back 6 weeks later and she was feeling better. She's like, I'm starting to feel better. So we do this where it's like, okay, you're gonna come back in 6 weeks. Let's check you out, see how it's going, and then we'll do it like a 3-month check-in.
And that's one of the things that I discovered. There was a frame of mind that was helpful to me because I have a lot of food sensitivities. And when I was going through like the elimination diet process, which is a lot of people won't do because it's so extreme.
Yeah.
But what got me through it was, well, this is just an experiment. There's an end to this experiment, and then we'll move on to a new phase that won't be this extreme, right? But we need to be here to get the data that we need, you know?
Oh, 100%. And sometimes I'll tell people, I'll be like, hey, we're going to do this. I'm like, we're going to cut out dairy for like, let's try it for 6 weeks.
Let's just see. Yeah.
Let's just see. If at the end of 6 weeks you haven't noticed absolutely anything, like we can try some other stuff, or we'll try it for 2 months. Like there's always an end date. And there's always, sometimes you have to cut out a lot. Like I've had people like where they're like, we're going to cut out dairy, we're going to cut out gluten, we're going to cut out nightshades. And they might have a list of things that they're going to cut out. But I said, this is not forever.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We're going to get to, and then we can slowly be like, okay, well, it's been a couple months and you're feeling pretty good. Maybe we introduce a little bit of gluten back and see what happens.
Yeah, or maybe we have some potatoes and see where you are.
We have some potatoes and see where you are. So I kind of do that where it's like, we're going to check in monthly and we're going to give you a base and then we'll start playing around and tweaking it to really find what works well for you. I also do that as part of it where we look at weight. The other one that I talk a lot about with people is weight. I remember when I first started working at a nutrition clinic, that there was one of the jobs was to give the talk at the start of the day. So we would give like a presentation, and the presentation that we did was on goals. And a woman said, I want to weigh 125 pounds. And I said,
I too have that goal, but I don't know that it's realistic.
Me too. I was like, I said, can you tell me why that is your goal? I said, I want to, like, one of the things I really like to do with people is I want to set a realistic goal. Like, what is a good goal for you? And she goes, I want to look great, just like you do. I want to be 125 pounds. And I said, that's really sweet. I'm 165 pounds. And she was like, what? And I said, I'm 165 pounds. I said, I'm like, right now, I think I'm sitting probably around 170. I'm someone who teaches cycle class, but anywhere from 3 to 7 times a week. I teach strength training classes. I've been boxing for years.
You have muscle packed on your frame. It weighs something.
I was like, it weighs something. So I talk about, like, when I'm also working with people, I'll just talk about realistic goals and what is a realistic health goal. And what is even a realistic movement goal? Because for me, I have the energy and ability to teach cycle class 7 times a week. I think my most is I have taught 4 cycle classes in a 36-hour period.
Yeah, that would put me into adrenal exhaustion and I would be in the bed for months afterwards.
Yeah, I will say that I live in a 4-level split. So the stairs after that, I was like, this was a questionable choice. But it was like, this was a decision. This was a question. But I'm able to do that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to tell someone, hey, I think you should be doing 4 cycle classes a week. I said, someone's goal, right now for my Nan, I said, my goal for you, Nan, is walk to the edge of your driveway. Just go and walk to depending. So everybody, I try and work with them and say, you need to have realistic goals, not just for your food, but also for your movement. Like you can't, if you say you're going to set yourself up for failure, if you base everything off what everyone else is doing. I said, I would be a failure if I tried to do half the workouts my dad did. My dad is an Ironman, and I think it takes a special kind of crazy to do that.
Yes, it does.
It takes a special kind of crazy. This is a man who's like, I'm going to go out and bike for 6 hours. I said, that sounds terrible. Do not sign me up for that. No, thank you. But I wouldn't function the next day if I trained like my dad did. I train like I need to train, and I train like I want to train. And so I work with people on, one, finding their love of movement again, finding their nutrition that works for them, but also just finding, I call it writing your own definition of healthy. Yes. Because when I got diagnosed, I remember looking up the definition of healthy that the World Health Organization had at the time, and it was talking about the absence of disease. And I said, well, great. I'm never going to be healthy again. I have
Not
a
according to
disease.
that definition,
Not
no.
according to that. So then I started, what is definition? Like, what is my definition of healthy? And my definition of healthy is being able to have the energy to teach 5 spin classes a week, or climb mountains, or do XYZ with my family. And that is my definition of healthy. So as long as I'm able to work towards those goals and I make goals that fit with my definition of healthy, I'm moving in a direction. So that's why I try and help people is like, what does healthy look like to you? Because it doesn't need to be 120-pound model physique.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
it needs to be realistic.
I know for myself, I have to really look at how I go about getting to those goals as well. I mentioned adrenal exhaustion, which is a thing in my life, and I also have what they call Ehlers-Danlos, which is a connective tissue disease. And so for me to go and say, oh, I'm going to just go bike a mile, that's not my starting point. It can't be my starting point. It will put me in all kinds of crippling pain if I try and do that. I need to sneak up on my exercise little by little. And I've learned that the hard way.
And I also,
I just need to be okay with that,
Yeah. And when I teach cycle class, like my cycle classes can range anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. And I start off every cycle class with the same spiel. I always say I have one rule in here. If you're going to leave this room, I need a thumbs up or something that lets me know you're okay, or I will follow you. This is a safety thing. You might go out and faint in the corridors. We don't want that. But I say the number one thing I'm going to tell anybody in this room is you make this your workout. I said, I'm going to tell you what to do. So I'm going to tell you when to sprint and climb hills. And if we come out, I'm going to say, hey, let's come out of the saddle, or we're going to do a max wattage push drill. I said, there's nothing that says you have to do it.
Exactly. If your body is saying, you know what, I might need to just slow down and take a breather, then you just need to slow down and take a breather.
Yeah. My mom is in the back of my Saturday spin class at literally every week. And she missed she was away for 6 weeks. And she came back, and the first week she came back, I said, okay, we're going to do our max wattage push drill. So this is the hardest drill of the class. We want to get the wattage as high as possible. And my mom's in the back of the class and going, nope.
Not happening. Not over here.
She's laughing, and she's like, nope. And so afterwards I talked to her. She's like, yeah, I just put it on an easy gear, and I spun out for the next 5 minutes. She's like, exactly. I checked out of that.
I did a cool down. Yeah.
Wasn't for me. I didn't extend it. And I was like, that's what people should be doing though. I'm here as a coach. I'm here giving recommendations. And my goal is to help you get to where you want to be.
Exactly. I adore Zumba, and I would take these Zumba classes, but I got to sneak up on it, and I can only do so much for so long. And so I would do my thing, and then I would have to sit down for a while, and then I would come back and do my thing some more. And after a couple of classes, one of the other attendees came over to me, and they're like, you shouldn't do that. That's not good to, start and stop your system that way. It's like, you have your experience, and I appreciate your concern for me, but here's what I have to do and why I have to do it. And
I mean, after my stem cell transplant, I was back in the gym boxing within 2 weeks. And I was attending boxing classes, and I was boxing every other song. I said, I can't sit here for an hour and do the whole thing. So I said, I'm either going to do the first 20 minutes and leave, or I would box every other song. And I would do smaller movements throughout the songs I wasn't doing. But I just told the person, I said, just so you know, I'm going to do every other song. And they're like, okay, high five, we got you.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to give to people. I said, I'm here to meet you. I'm here to give advice, but it's okay. I got you.
I'm here to meet you at your level. So speaking of meeting people at their level, I know you brought a gift for the listeners today. Would you like to explain what your gift is? You've got 55 seconds.
Yeah, I brought one of my sample meal plans. I'm trying to remember which one I think I did my women's health one. I did a women's health meal plan, and it's just a sample. Like I said, I am a proud vegan, plant-based person. I do recognize plant-based living as everybody, but everybody can benefit from eating plants.
Amen.
And so it's just a sample meal plan. And if they want to find more, they can find it on my Substack. I actually do a paid meal plan every week, but a free meal plan every month for anybody who subscribes. They get. Nice. I just dropped September's.
Very good. Make sure you check the show notes. There will be links to all that good stuff, the Substack and meal plans and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for joining us here today. What would be your final words of wisdom?
My final words of wisdom is always just to trust your body and really try to listen to your body. I know a lot of people who say, "Oh, my body doesn't talk to me," and I said, "Your body does. We just kind of ignored it so long. We don't know how to listen to our bodies
Yeah, we've been
anymore."
trained to ignore it. A lot of times
Yeah,
it's like, just suck it up and keep going, buttercup.
but really listen to your body and have faith in yourself, and like don't be hard on yourself when you do take that break.
I
Because
love it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jess. I really appreciate you.
thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, and thank you for taking the time and investing your time here to listen to this podcast. I do this for you guys to help you go out there and be the most amazing women that you can be. And it takes a lot of energy and commitment to be able to start a company and start pushing it through its growth phases and nurturing your baby the way you want to nurture it. And the most important thing you can do is take care of yourself so that you can take care of that company and the employees that are involved. And I really appreciate you joining us here today. I can be reached at Zofia, Zofia, at steminstilettos.com. Let me know what you thought of the show, if there are other topics you'd like to see or people you'd like to have me talk to. I look forward to hearing from you. Until next week, go out there, be bold, be beautiful, and be authentically you.